Hi everyone, it's Lindsay. Welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be making a card with a new digital stamp set from Clair Stamps. Now today is a huge release over at Clair Stamps. There are 6 new digital stamp sets being released. I am using a stamp set that I designed called Pencil Me In. I've went ahead and laid out all of my different images that I will be using, and I did this on my iPad in Procreate. Now I just did a video on how to use your iPad to use your digital stamps with the Procreate app. I will leave that link down in the description box below. It's super easy to use and it's only a $10 app. But you get it for life. I mean, it's not like a monthly subscription, so you are good to go once you buy it once. So that's what I use when I want to use my iPad. I laid everything out, and then I went ahead and cut out an A2 size rectangle around the wishing you sentiment. And on that, I'm going to do a bit of ink blending. I'm going to ink blend a background, a rainbow background, and I'm doing that over my micro brick stencil from the Crafter's Workshop. Now, whenever I ink blend, if I can, I like to work over a stencil or something to break up the color. It gives me a little bit more wiggle room with my ink blending. Especially when I'm using my mini ink blending tools, I don't need to be as careful. Now, I am using one of my old color combinations that I've used very, very often for ink blending a rainbow background, or kind of a rainbow background. I start off with picked raspberries, then I move on to spice marmalade, then mustard seed, twisted citron, peacock feathers, and seedless preserves. When I am ink blending a large panel like this and using several colors at once, I always like to work back and forth between 2 colors. So I started off with the picked raspberries and spice marmalade. Once I had those 2 blended, I went ahead and put my picked raspberry away, and I went ahead and brought out my mustard seed. So then I work between the spice marmalade and the mustard seed, the orange and the yellow. And I just keep repeating that process. Once I get the blend done, I'll go ahead and put the orange away and grab out the green and blend between the yellow and the green. Then I'll put my first color away, which is the yellow, and start blending between the green and the blue, or in this case, twisted citron and peacock feathers. Not only does this give me a really good blend between my 2 colors, but this also keeps me from grabbing the wrong ink or dipping the wrong sponge into the wrong ink pad and creating a mess on my background. If I work between more than about 2 colors, it can get a little bit confusing. So I like to work between those 2 colors, maybe 3 if I'm feeling like I can handle that, but 2 is about what I found works for me. Now with ink blending, I have found, especially with my mini ink blending tools, that the older the sponge is, the better it works. If you are just starting out and you start with a new sponge, you have to. I mean, you can't buy dirty sponges that are ready to go, but just be patient and keep working with the ink, keep practicing, and you will get the hang of it, I promise. And if all else fails, ink blend over a stencil. It gives you a lot of wiggle room and it looks really great when you pull off and you have those colors broken up with white space. You can't see the mistakes as easily. So once that was done, I went ahead and grabbed my little pencils that I had put on my paper and cut out very roughly because I'll be fussy cutting these out later. I am going to color these in completely gray. I am using 3 different colors of gray, and I'm starting with my darkest and putting that towards the top of the pencil. Then I'm coming in and blending that out with a lighter color. The markers I'm using are the art markers. These are a very cheap alcohol marker. They come in a pretty large set. You buy them on Amazon. I do have a review coming for these, I promise. We're just in the middle of a lot right now with our family. So I have it filmed. I have all the pictures done. I just need to get the video edited and put together. But right now, that is easier said than finding 2 hours to sit down and get it done. So it's coming, I promise, at some point. Now I'm going to just continually color this. I'm only going to show you about half of the first row here that I'm doing. but I did color all these pencils in exactly the same way. Now, once I had the bottom blended, I took a lighter gray and I filled in where the wood would be normally on a pencil. So whenever you're working with grays and you want to do gray tone coloring, just make sure you're using several different colors, some darker, some lighter shades, and you can also use different tones to really help give it that grayscale effect. If you need help figuring out what kind of grays an object would look like, take a picture with your phone of the object you're wanting to color. In this case, I would have grabbed a pencil and taken a picture of it, and then just convert it to gray on your phone. That's going to give you a better idea of what color grays the actual object would be, and that'll give you a good idea whenever you're coloring. Now I fussy cut out those pencils and then I'm going to pop them up on the top and bottom of that Wishing You panel that I did the ink blending. So I'm going to have that really bright colorful background and then these grayscale pencils popped up on top. I'm using some foam tape and I'm just lining it up with the edges. Now this is going to be a little bit longer than what I did my panel as. That's okay. So I just line up one side and then I'll take my scissors and I'll flip this panel over and just trim off the excess. Super simple and easy, and that way you know it's going to be long enough and you don't have to worry about cutting down your background panel. So that is the background. All I needed to do now was finish that sentiment. So I printed off the colorful day. Now to get this die cut correctly, I die cut out from a piece of cardstock, just leftover cardstock with the die I wanted to use. In this case, it was a flag banner. Take out that die and use that opening as a guide. Your die should pop right back into that once you get it lined up. Now, the thing is, if you cut it like this, you might not make it through both layers because you're cutting through essentially 2 layers of cardstock. So what I like to do is tape my die down, make sure it's in place, or just hold it down with your fingers. Use your scissors and just cut a slit along the side of that guide and then just peel it away from around the die. This is going to make sure that you can cut completely through the layers and it's not going to leave any funky ridges or indent your paper at all. So this was a little bit too long of a die, so I'm just going to do a little selective die cutting. I die cut one side, popped it back into my die, lined it up, and then die cut it again so it is the same width on each side of that sentiment. Then I just pop that sentiment up with a little bit of foam adhesive right underneath that Wishing You sentiment. Super simple. You could also do this completely the opposite as I did it, which might look a little bit better. Do the colorful day and print that out on the background, and then die cut the Wishing You and pop that up above it. Either way works. And then I matted that panel with a black cardstock mat and adhered it onto an A2 side folding card base that I'm using horizontally. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and a look at the new Pencil Me In digital stamp set from Clair Stamps. Head over to my blog where there's a blog hop happening today. There are prizes to be won, tons of inspiration. That's going to do it for me today. Thanks so much for watching and happy crafting, everyone.